Can a solo have a base that is just as defendable as a Zerg's? Can we achieve that same level of intimidation that stops people from even farming outside your base without spending all day farming ourselves? Well, thanks to today's base, I think we can. While its name does come from its silhouette, the actual piece comes from the fact that nobody in their right mind would approach this base. As you walk up to your fully protected front door, you're given mobility options that allow you to go inside or directly to your shooting floor. Inside its doors, you'll find tons of storage and utility that allows you to quickly do what you need and get right back to the action. Whether it's protecting your lands or defending a raid, the 360-degree shooting floor means that you have every single angle covered. The roof? Not only is it the perfect helipad, but it's also equipped to defend itself or you from any raid. Deep within its core, you'll have your own personal farm, a fully automated furnace system, and best of all, peace of mind. If you're ready to build this base, I'll have the timestamps down below for each step of this base, as well as the cost on screen so you know exactly how much you need. Alright, we all know that the most important part of any effective base is a simple and useful starter base. Today is no exception. First, making sure that we have the land to expand out later if we need to. The only thing we need to decide is where we want our endgame front door to face. So if you wanted your endgame front door to face towards the satellite dish, you would take this first square and use it as an arrow, pointing it a little bit to the right of satellite, like so. And then we're going to place our second square here and our triangle here. We can then completely surround in the base. Drop our TC in this back right corner. You want to make sure it is very tight to both walls. And then of course, upgrade your build. For your front doors, you have a choice to make. You can go with the early game airlock using single doors, or we can do double doors, which will focus on late and mid game mobility through the base. I personally prefer the double doors, so that is what I'm going with. And I am going to make them open in towards each other. This doesn't function as an airlock, but does focus on mobility through the base. Over here, we are going to add another door frame. And then we're going to grab our large boxes, because our first one is going to go right here tucked away into this corner. And our second one is going to go right here in front of the TC. You're going to want about that distance from your TC to the box. With this door, I'm going to open it outwards just to make things a little easier inside there. Our bags up to 2 can go right here very easily. And I'm going to use this back wall as my workbenches as I upgrade throughout this wipe. Additionally, we're going to grab our small boxes and our furnace. Our first furnace is going to go right here, tucked really close to that box and that door. You might need to remove the door to really get it in there, but honestly, it shouldn't make much of a difference. In the end, this furnace is going to stick partially out through the door. That's not a big deal. And then we're going to follow up with a single box right there, and a final single box right here. I say that, but you can actually get one more in right here that you won't have to move until you get a tier 3. That is the end of stage 1. Stage 2 is going to start with the acquisition of metal doors, obviously increasing the security of your base. And then we're actually going to make our way outside here. And we're going to start with a low triangle right here off the side of our TC room. You can actually upgrade that triangle because you will need it later. And we're just going to build a shelf inside to that TC room. Coming inside, we are going to upgrade that shelf. I do recommend upgrading it to at least wood. And then placing slightly right of center here, we're going to start with our first large box. And that should give us plenty of room to slide in another one right here. And then finally, of course, we're going to add one more small box right there. Now, if you do got a bit of the OCD, you might want to place a furnace here to really get that in. But this will give you plenty of easy access to everything you might need. We can of course slap a door back on and have no issues getting in and looting everything. Let's work our way outside and expand into that second loot room. So we're going to build 2 squares off of here, placing one here and here, upgrading those. and then surround that in with a double door to the back of the base. Once you've got this all nice and sealed in, we're going to build ourselves a shelf right here. I know some of you are going to be tempted to use ramps in your storage room. I highly recommend against it for this build. It will cause you problems later on. Instead, we're going to use the two large and one small box method to create our loot room. And you do have the option to add the additional 2 more small boxes for these loot rooms, though you will have to pick them up later, so that is something to keep in mind. That said, for early game storage, it can be very beneficial to add these 2 extra small boxes. Once that's done, we can add our door frame, upgrade that, and secure it with 2 more doors. But this is the end of stage 2, and with that end, we have created some nice loot separation, made things a lot harder for a raider. They can no longer splash into everything, and even if they do go to raid, it is going to cost them considerably more, while also giving us a lot more loot space. Moving on to stage 3, I do recommend highly that you acquire yourself a garage door. If that is not something you can currently get, no problem, you will just leave this slot empty for now. But we're going to start by adding 2 triangles at the back here, upgrading those, and sealing ourselves in. You're going to want to add a floor triangle right here, and then we're going to create a little jump up. So we're going to do a half wall, a triangle, upgrade the triangle, and destroy the half wall. Replace the half wall with a full wall. We have a nice little jump up. Up here, we're going to place 2 more walls, right here and here. Upgrading all of those. And then we can take the door that we removed from downstairs and place it right here. Additionally, if you happen to have shotgun traps, they can be a great addition to this base at this point, placing one right here and one right here. Those are spots you are going to leave them throughout the run, so it is a nice addition early on. Finally, for this stage, we're going to place a roof piece right here. This is going to create a jump up to this second floor. Now, this is mostly about preparing for future expansion, but it does also make things a little bit more secure. If you are finding people are griefing this a lot, simply upgrade it to wood and it will be a lot harder to grief, but still easy for you to remove. But this is the end of stage 3. Stage 4 is probably going to be the biggest expansion that you're going to be doing, at least till this point. With stage 4 and this expansion does come a lot more security as well as a lot more utility in this base. The cost, of course, will be on the screen right now for this stage. We're going to start by expanding out these triangles here and adding in a nice little bit of honeycomb. Now, if you are able to, I would recommend upgrading this to metal, but stone is perfectly acceptable for honeycomb. We're also going to completely seal that in and put 3 more triangles in the front. From here, we're adding wall frames like so, and we're actually going to double stack those because we are going to be needing to do that later. From here, we're adding roof triangles all the way around. And then we can jump up into the base. Now up here, you of course want to cover this up so you're not falling in anymore. And then we're going to be placing our doors. We're going to do a single door here and a double door here, and then surround everything else with just walls. Now just to make sure we're sealed in, we are going to put a temporary double door here, and our front door is going to open inwards like so. We're then going to place a wall here and a wall here, and we're going to make our nice little entrance, adding in 2 more single door frames. Of course, closing off the roof as well. You're going to want to put this door either way. It actually does not matter because either way you put it, it will airlock with that outside door. And then this door has to open inside. So we want to create it so that it airlocks no matter which way we go. This also creates a nice little bit of movement where you can quickly and easily move from one side of your base to the other. You're going to open doors and you're not going to have to worry about leaving them open when you move through. Next, let's fill in the rest of the roof. So we're going to start by covering it in like so. And then for this triangle in front of our door, we're actually going to use a triangle frame. That is going to be a ladder hatch, but if you do not have ladder hatches yet, that's not a big issue. We can fix that. And then this room over here is going to become a storage room. So we're going to do a shelf as we did below, and bam. The difference with this storage room is we're going to start off by placing a workbench. Now this can be helpful to go ahead and place your door frame first to make things easier to line up. And we're just going to place that workbench basically right next to that frame. You want to kind of tuck it up to it. That's going to allow us to place a single box here and a single box right here. Adding a little bit of space can make it a little easier to loot them. And we're going to put a big box at the back here, another small box in the middle, and then we can finish up with a couple more small boxes. Up here, we are going to just do the standard large, small, large. This provides all the utility that we need, getting a nice repair bench for our repairing and reskinning needs, but also still min-maxing that storage option. Bam. Next, we're going to slap our door on, opening that inwards to not get in our way. And then we're going to be placing another door on this side. Now, this will eventually become our battery room, which is not something we need to worry about yet. But in the meantime, let's add a mixing table, a Solo's wet dream. Mixing table is going to make your life a lot easier. We definitely want to include that in our base. And of course, a nice small box tucked underneath. From here, we can just fill out everything else with double door frames, increasing our security through the base. But I'm going to leave this one empty just for now. Now, in an ideal world, you would be placing mostly garage doors in these movement points, but it's not necessary. Again, just very helpful. Now, if you find yourself without a ladder hatch, unable to do this nice little airlocking, instead, you're going to build a shelf to get yourself up here and just cover this in because we will eventually be adding this anyway. Doing this a little bit early can just give you some extra security and peace of mind. So it is worth doing if you do not have ladder hatches yet. Now finally, before we finish off the building portion of this stage, we're going to come out to the front here, adding a triangle here and here, and a triangle frame in between. As well, we're going to add one triangle frame right here in front of the double door, with another door frame above it. You should end up with something like this. And that is the end of the build portion of this stage. But we do go further than that, so I am going to remove that door here. And let's start by taking care of this section here. So we're going to place a fence right here, a chain link fence on both sides. And then we're going to do a chain link fence gate right here. You want to make sure it opens outwards just for ease. Then right here, we're going to add a double door. So let's grab our door from earlier. Doesn't matter too much which way it opens. And then finally, right here, we're just going to add a locker and a bed. You can also put in several small boxes in here as well, but this is going to be a nice little respawn and run out area. If you are a duo and you want to put two beds here, no problem. You're simply going to put your locker here instead. Now, while this will get repurposed later on, it definitely does function as a great little research spot. Finally, before moving on to the next stage, I do want to just address one more thing that you should take care of at this stage, and that is acquiring a turret. I know for a lot of you, it is going to seem a little unrealistic early on to get a turret, but it is definitely worth acquiring. If you do even just spend the 400 scrap by going to Outpost, it will make your base so much more secure. With just one battery, one turret, and one solar panel, you can very easily add a lot of protection to this base. I'm going to start by first putting these as garage doors, which is just going to increase my movement through the base a little bit. Then let's address the battery room. Now you can very easily do a medium battery instead of a large. And actually early on, if you're just powering one turret, you can actually just use a small battery. So that is something to consider. Once you've got your battery placed, we're going to come over here again. And we're going to place our turret. A single python turret is enough to give you a large degree of security for that front door. So we're going to place this turret very, very close to the front. You kind of want to get it so that that front leg is almost sitting at the door. If you've done it right, you should have enough room that you could still very easily jump out of this section, but jumping in becomes very problematic. And of course, that turret's going to take care of anybody in this front area. With that double chain link fence, it does make griefing this because of the double chain link fence, it does make griefing the turret considerably harder. So not completely impossible, but at least harder to a degree that makes it worthwhile doing. Coming upstairs, we're going to add our solar panel. Now you want to face your solar panel in an ideal early wipe situation north, right? The sun's going to rise in the east and set in the west. That will change depending on how long your server has been alive. So it is important to keep an eye on where that sun is in your sky. But for general speaking, a northern facing solar panel is your way to go. If you have multiple solar panels, simply add a roof combiner, and we're just going to combine those together. If you only have one solar panel, not a big deal. One is enough to power a turret. We're going to connect those together, bring that down, and run that right into our battery. From our battery, we're going to grab E branches. We're going to start with just one, but you can prepare for later expansions as well as if you want. And we're just going to directly connect the power output to the power in. Then we're going to change this to a 10 power. We can then run this along and bring that to our turret. And once connected, you should see that turret come to life and start protecting your front door. And there we have it. We have finally reached the end of stage 4. Now playing solo can be tough, but thanks to today's sponsor, I have an entire army at my fingertips. Introducing Enlisted. Enlisted is a one-of-a-kind FPS that combines PvP and PvE to create an experience unlike any other. Command epic battles with hordes of AI troops to crush the massive armies ran by other players. Head out on riveting campaigns ranging from Moscow in 41 to the center of Berlin in 45. Each campaign features a distinct array of weapons and vehicles that add a ton of variety to the game. Whether it's the iconic M4 Sherman tanks or the super rare firearms, you're sure to have a blast. Of course, the best part is that this game is perfect for all players. With its realistic movement, brisk infantry combat, and intricate vehicle damage, whether you're a hardcore or casual player, Enlisted's got a role for you. The graphics, absolutely stellar. The sound, you'll feel like you're in a battlefield itself. Even on lower end systems, the attention to detail is sure to amaze you. Dive in right now with the link below and check out Enlisted for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. Not only will you be helping to support the channel, but you're gonna get yourself a free bonus pack that'll set you up with bonus weapons, soldiers, and even a premium account. Moving on, we're going into stage 5. Now stage 5 is actually just shooting floor prep. Because we cannot actually build the shooting floor yet, we just need to do the framework so that we can get up onto the next floor. We're gonna start by finishing out this portion here to match this here. And so we're gonna do that by doing triangle, triangle, and triangle frame. And you're gonna do that on the other flat side as well. Triangle, triangle, triangle frame. We can then upgrade those to stone. And then along all of the interior here, like so, we're just gonna go around with double doors. Once those are all placed and upgraded, we can start taking care of the roof. Now what we're going to be aiming for with the roof is to have our next ladder hatch be right in front of this one as we come out. What we're going to do is we're going to start by placing 2 triangles right here, and then another ladder hatch frame right there. We can then fill in the rest, closing it in properly. And then of course, finishing it up with a ladder hatch. If you are worried about the security, you can of course slap doors into all of those door frames, but I wouldn't worry about it too much because we're very quickly going to be moving on to the next stage, the roof. Once we're up on our roof, we can go ahead and replace our solar panels. So in my case, I'm going to put one facing north-northeast and one facing north-northwest. Of course, connecting those with the root combiner. This should provide me with enough power for a good little while. Next, we're going to add a floor triangle here and here at the front of our base. Just at this front side here. And then from here, we're taking roof triangles and we're putting them all around the front, just the front. Once you have those in place, we switch to the regular roof pieces and we're gonna follow around the rest of the build with that. You should be left with connections looking like so. And you just run around and upgrade those. And this forms the framework of the dove. While it's a nice little set of peaks, gives us some nice angles, the real fun comes with the shooting floor. Now there is a reason we did the shooting floor last, and I will be explaining that, but before we do that, let's move on to stage 7, the honeycomb. That's right, we're coming all the way down to the floor to take care of the honeycomb now. Now, while you could have easily done the honeycomb a little earlier, it definitely needs to be done at this stage. So if you haven't addressed honeycomb before now, it is something you're going to want to look at. Now for the front here, you're just going to place a single triangle underneath the triangles that we jutted out earlier. And I promise you there is some reason that we did the roof first, and I will explain that when we get to the shooting floor. For both of these sides, we're just going to place the 3 triangles, mimicking what we've got above. We're going to do that for both flat sides. And then finally for the back here, where we've got these 2 double doors, we're going to do the same thing, adding 2 more triangles. From here, for these triangles that are single, both on the front and the back, we're going to add a floor pieces in between like so. We're getting one at the top, one in the middle. And then we're simply just going to follow up with walls covering it in. This is just your normal typical honeycomb and is fairly simple to place. You're just going to have to go up to the roof to get that last piece finalized. And then we're going to do the same thing at the front here, placing one at top, one in the middle, upgrading the middle because you won't have access to it again later. And then presto changeo, we've got that honeycomb locked in. Now finally, we're coming to these flat sides where we've got the 3 triangles. Now this is a little bit different. So we're going to start off by doing the walls on the outside, closing it in a little bit. And then we're of course going to follow up with floors right through. I'm actually going to empty this one for a second because it is going to be a little bit easier. And we're going to do our walls like so. Then we're going to follow it up with that floor piece going back right here. And we'll do a single wall at the bottom with a double door slot on top of it. Now, if you are worried about people climbing into your base, absolutely go ahead and add that double door right now. You will be removing it later though. It is something that's useful to put on when you're logging off, so that's something to consider. You might not want to throw out that double door. But it is just a placeholder for now. We do the exact same thing on this side. And we're done. That's the honeycombing. You can, of course, add more layers of honeycomb by squaring out, but it does become a little redundant and is more something you should focus on much later expansions. Coming up to the roof and finishing the upgrades here, we're now ready for the final stage, the shooting floor. The arguably most important stage of this base. So we're gonna start with these 3 triangle pieces. This is where we're gonna start dealing with our shooting floor. Let's go to the front of our base, and we're gonna start by taking low walls and placing them all the way around. From here, we're gonna add half walls right here and here, and then we're gonna completely cover this in with floor triangle frames. Once you've done that, we're gonna add a floor piece here and here just for something to stand on. It's just a platform. And we're gonna start by placing a roof piece here, and a final roof piece right here. You can then destroy this frame and walk down into here and destroy this frame. We're then gonna repeat that process on all three of these 3 triangle sides. And of course, while you're doing this, if you happen to have it, we're gonna be adding ladder hatches into these lower areas. But if you don't have them yet, it's not a big deal. And boom, just like that, we're done the main portions of our roof peaks. Now let's handle these 2 at the back. Now for these 2 at the back, we're gonna start by doing a floor triangle above us on both of them. And then we're just gonna fill in walls like so with half walls, upgrading only the top. And then destroying the bottom and replacing those with 1/3 walls. Or low walls. Very simple peaks right there. And then of course, add your double doors for that little bit of security. Then we come to these 2 sections. Now you're probably thinking, Rex, it's literally the exact same thing. You're just doing this, and then you're placing low walls. You would be 100% correct. That is exactly what we're doing, and it does seem very simple, and you're probably asking yourself, why couldn't I have done this earlier? Why did I have to do the roof first? It's because stability's a little tricky. All right, so if we come up to the roof, and we were to say, do the roof last, right? We're gonna remove these. The problem that can happen is even though we have 29% stability right here, we only have 7% stability here. And so what sometimes happens, and not all the time, is when you're placing these, they sometimes do not place. And of course now it's gonna work. So I can't show you it not working. That's lovely. But sometimes what'll happen is when you go to place these little wingtip pieces right here, it will actually not place because it will try to connect to the half walls instead. This does mean if you're ever having issues replacing these because they got rated out or something, you just need to come down into here, eco out these walls, and then replace them. You will have to do the roof pieces before the walls. Again, I don't know why right now it won't let me show you it because it does happen fairly often and you definitely want to do the shooting floor last. Now, some of you are probably thinking, that's great, this is a nice little shooting floor, but like, come on, we can do better, right? And you wouldn't be wrong, we can. And we're gonna do some improvements on this that are gonna make it much more effective. Now, there's a couple issues with this shooting floor and we're gonna address those right now. One thing you're gonna notice is that when you're jumping up here, sometimes your head is gonna hit this thing. And there's a couple fixes to that. One is gonna be switching to sheet metal. It's gonna take up less room and make it a lot easier to jump through. But since that can get a little expensive, if you'd rather, you can go the pay to win method, which is to switch to Adobe or brick, which completely remove the skirting, making it significantly easier to jump up into. Now, if you are using Adobe or brick, you can also do the exact same thing with these here, which cause them to get a little bit smaller, as you can see, and actually makes it easier to get through here and get those peaks. But I do recommend switching all of these to either Adobe, brick, or metal just to create that smaller gap. I'm gonna do the same thing with the roof pieces here. But for the regular roof pieces, these ones here, you wanna keep them as stone because you actually want that skirt. That skirt actually ends up providing you some nice protection, making it a lot harder to counter you when you're shooting out them. Now finally, let's address the angles, all right? We've got beautiful angles all around the base, but they are a little limited. With crouch meta being such a thing, you really want to get the most out of your crouches rather than having to stand and spray down. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna acquire some campfires. With your newly acquired campfires, we can go ahead and open up our doors here. We can already see the angles that they're gonna give us. So this is our peak before campfire. Here, let's go. So this is our peak before campfire. Obviously we got some nice angles, but they're not the greatest. But if we add a campfire to the middle, you can very quickly see how this makes a huge difference, right? We now have perfect vision of the landscape standing or crouching. And we're gonna do the same thing here. So we've got this angle, which is kind of bleh. place a campfire, and all of a sudden, this angle is amazing. So we are gonna just repeat that all the way around. That's gonna give you beautiful, beautiful angles. And the final change that we're gonna commit to this floor is gonna be ladder hatches. With your ladder hatches, you're gonna wanna jump up into here, and we're gonna place them like so in all of your little triangle areas. This gives us not only a nice little peek down, but it also gives us a way to jump up to this floor from outside. We're just gonna simply complete that all the way around. And you'll notice that when you do that on these sides here, where I said we're gonna remove the doors, we actually create a nice little blockade that they can't get through anyways. At the same time, it does give us some angles that we can actually shoot down, and more importantly, it gives us escape hatches. This means if you ever need to quickly escape from this shooting floor, you can jump down through here, close that, and make your way out. Additionally, you can still keep these doors here, though I would recommend switching them to a switch or a smart switch, which would allow you to open and close them without having to actually manually do it. Now the rest of this video is going to be minor improvements to the base, so stay tuned if you want to get the most out of it. We're going to start by expanding to a windmill, and we're going to do that by placing three frames going up, laddering up, and placing 2 triangle floor pieces. From here, you should be able to place a windmill, as long as you're centered, right here. And this will provide more than enough power for this entire base. But what do we need all that power for? What do we need a windmill worth of power for this base? Well, let's jump into the core to get that answered. Coming downstairs, I'm gonna first remove this research table, and then I'm gonna work my way down here. Now let's start by opening up these doors. First off, we're gonna obviously get our tier 3 over here, but we're gonna start right here. And we have 2 beautiful options for this wall right here. We can either stick another locker, which you might have to pick up the doors to actually place. Yeah, you definitely have to pick up the doors to place. Or my preference, a weapon rack. Weapon racks are a beautiful addition to Rust, and they make things a lot easier while taking up very minimal space. The next thing we're looking at is removing these doors and picking up these boxes here. And then we're gonna grab electric furnaces. We're gonna take our electric furnaces, placing one right here, rotating this one around so that the front door faces away from us, and placing it down here as well. With those placed, you're gonna wanna acquire some storage adapters, slapping those on the sides here. Then we're gonna put one on this box and one on this box as well. With all that done, we can grab our pipe tool and we're gonna start connecting these together. So we're gonna start with this one down here. We're gonna take the industrial out and bring that up into this one here. Industrial out, out and over into this one here. And then again, bring this down and just connect it into this one here. Next step is gonna be to actually temporarily remove this trap. And we're gonna start placing our conveyors right here. Now I am only placing these 2 for this, but I'm gonna place these ones ahead of time because I'm gonna be using them as well. Then we're gonna connect the industrial in of this to the first one. And then we're gonna connect the industrial in of the right piece all the way down and over into this one here. We're just gonna come across. So this one is pulling out of the line and this one is pushing into the line. So we're gonna take this box over here and we're gonna connect the out. And we're gonna bring this to the first one. And this is now our input box. Let's go ahead and change this. And we're gonna switch that to ore. And this is gonna be our output box, so let's call it sulfur. We can connect the industrial in from that one. Bring it up and around. And we're gonna connect that to the output of the right one. For this input one, we're gonna go ore, and we're gonna put metal ore, sulfur ore, high qual ore, and hit apply. For this right one, we're gonna do sulfur, metal frags, and of course, high qual. Hit apply. With that done, we've now created a nice loop where anything we put into here will get sucked up, thrown into the furnaces, cooked, and brought into the sulfur box. But of course, we're gonna need power for that to work. And this is where this comes in. So we're gonna now connect this through, and we're gonna take each of these and daisy chain them through as well. And we're actually gonna need a few more. Let's place this fourth one, and that's gonna be for all of our furnaces. Then we're gonna do this one, which is gonna be for our E branches. And we're actually gonna place 2 more for 2 more turrets. Now how you connect this is really irrelevant as long as the power out always goes into another E branch and the branch out goes into whatever you're powering. Because these 3 or these 4 right here go into my furnaces, we're gonna set those to be 3 each. And then we're just gonna connect them and bring them down into the power in of each of the electric furnaces. You're gonna repeat that process until all of them are connected to power. Now once those are all connected, you should be able to actually just come here and turn them on and make sure that's working properly. And then we need to connect our conveyors. So we're gonna take the power input and connect that over and upstairs, just like we did with the furnaces. For this one, we're just gonna connect it to this right here, which can have a 2 output. But because we are gonna be connecting 2 more conveyors, we're gonna switch this to 4, just to save ourselves a bit of a headache. And we're gonna take the electric pass-through, connect to the power input, electric pass-through, power input, electric pass-through to power input. Now right away we could turn on these top 2 because they're all ready to go and programmed. And then we're just gonna come down here and just throw in some resources. So right away we can throw those in and you should see them start to suck out, going into the furnaces where they're being cooked, and getting depoted into this large box. Now if you need more than 4 furnaces, you can actually just remove these middle boxes and you can place 2 more furnaces, 1 on each side, or 1 on each level, and that will give you 6. I personally find 4 electric furnaces to be more than adequate, but to each their own. Now some of you might be wondering, what about these 2 lower ones? Well, one issue that I commonly find with these electric furnaces is I always run out of charcoal. Always. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna place 3 regular furnaces, very tight against the wall like so. And then we're gonna grab our storage adapters, slapping them on top. And we're gonna connect those together. So industrial out, to industrial in, industrial out, to industrial in. Then we're gonna take this in and connect it here. And we're gonna take this out and connect it here. Finally, we're gonna grab this industrial input and we're gonna connect it to this box over here. So we're gonna take the industrial out, bring that along, and we're gonna connect it to the input. Then on this box here, we're gonna connect the industrial in, and we're gonna connect it to the output of the right one. Then we can go ahead and spray paint these because we're gonna call this now our wood box, and we're gonna call this now our charcoal box. Now this is getting wired just a little bit differently. So what we're gonna do is before we turn that on, we're gonna set this to pull wood, and just wood, right? But we're gonna set a minimum. We're gonna set a minimum of, say, 2,000, and then we're gonna hit apply. On this side, we're gonna just put charcoal, no minimums or maximums needed, just hit apply. And we of course can turn these on. Now, the difference in why we set that minimum is now this box will always keep wood in our base. You don't want to run out of wood in your base, it can be really annoying. So when there is only 2,000 wood in this box, nothing happens. It just sits there, you have wood in your base. When there is more than 2,000 wood in that box, it will immediately start siphoning it out, leaving only 2,000. This of course does still require that you manually turn these on in order to actually get the furnaces lit, but once they're on, they will just continuously suck that wood out and keep putting out charcoal into this box. This means you can go about your business, and as long as you every once in a while farm wood and throw it in, you're good to go. Means you'll never really run out of wood, but you will have to turn on the furnaces every single time that you go to use them. But you will have to turn the furnaces back on every single time they run out of wood. Finally, of course, we can grab our shotgun trap, put it back right here, and it goes back to guarding our nice little jump down. But we're not done there. You see, we're going to go back up to the roof now. I know some of you are thinking, but we're already done up there, but we're not done up here. We're gonna add a lot more security with just 2 turrets. Grabbing your turrets, we're gonna place one in this lovely corner here, and a second one right here. Now, just with those 2 turrets, they will actually completely cover every angle of the roof. This one covering all of these beautiful angles, and this one covering all of these beautiful angles. Between the 2 of them, there is absolutely no way to get up onto the roof, which is beautiful. And you're simply going to connect them to these 2 right here. Now we can go one step beyond that and make this base even a little bit better in terms of utility. How can we do that, you might ask? Well, we can add our own little farm in this base. So we're going to start by placing a square planter up here on this second floor. And then we're going to finish off by coming down here and placing 2 small planters. Now for these ones, you want to place it very close to the furnace, right into it in fact. And then your second one should fit right there. The only thing missing from them at this point is light and water. While I can't fix the water solution and I recommend just going to a river and pouring it in, we can fix the light solution with 1 light. So we're going to grab ourselves a ceiling light and we're going to place it in the center of this here. And you have a couple options, but we're just going to grab the power in and we're going to connect it directly to the power out of the last E branch in our system. If you might want to expand more things into it later, definitely add another E branch, but this is all we really need. And once that's on, we're actually going to see very quickly that we have light on this one, obviously. But what a lot of people don't realize is the light actually goes through the floor. You can actually see that it is still powering, or at least providing light, for this down here. The only downside is, of course, you still need to get water for yourself, and it does make the jump a little bit more tedious, but I think the trade-off of having your own indoor farm is definitely worth it in my opinion. Massive shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Enlisted. Dive headfirst into epic battles, command your AI troops, and experience historic campaigns in unparalleled FPS warfare. Click the link down below and jump into Enlisted right now because your troops are waiting. And that's it, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the base. Let me know down below in the comments if you would change anything. And don't forget to subscribe for future content. Until next time, enjoy your wipe and peace out.